up, guys, and welcome back to PARTAY TV. So I've got a couple of things that I need to cover with you before we get into our product displays. Our first product display will be going up in just a couple of days. But I did have a couple of questions because we're going to start with the darkest screens that we make and move down to the lightest. So since we're going to be starting in the black territory, there are some questions around black screens that I didn't really answer adequately in previous videos. So one of the common that I've gotten, and so I'll go ahead and address this in general with the audience, is will it work with a UST? In other words, do black screens work with USTs? It's really based on how you define work. If you're talking about will it pull up an image, yes. If you're asking me for a recommendation, no. USTs do not play well with black. And especially when you get into modern USTs. Now, if you've got an older UST that has a much deeper beam angle, meaning that if this is a screen and you're getting a deeper angle on the projection, it may do okay. With modern USTs where the angle of the beam is very shallow, not going to do well whatsoever. Even dry, very dry negative gain screens just do not work well, from a black perspective. You're going to be better off to stay in the grays, period. You can go that route. I would even say, and I know, we weren't going to bring this back up again, but I would even kind of quote out there that you would notice that even Bird backed off of using that 3100 lumen Sony on his big screen and moved it to like a 60-inch screen. And the reason for that is because it doesn't play well. Just doesn't do well. Of course, he's not going to say that, but just for people out there who have those questions, you can see even that was abandoned, and now you're getting the emergence of the Supreme 8 again under a new name. So hopefully that answers that. I would never recommend a black screen for a UST projector unless you're fortunate enough to have, say, the 10,000 lumen Sony projector. Then you might get away with that, but definitely not with any of your standard USTs that are out there on the market for general consumption. Will a black screen hold up better in ambient light? Okay, so I'm going to answer that with a little video piece. Common question, and my answer is going to be yes and no, and I'll explain. So black and white screens are polar opposites from each other, right? With gray kind of being, according to what gray you're talking about, being in the middle. But they also behave in ways that are reverse from each other. If you look at the white screen here, now with a white screen, as soon as you turn on light, the black levels start to go. And they were never truly black levels to begin with. But you'll notice that your whites and your bright colors, they're actually brighter on the white screen. Now, they seem a little washed out. They don't pop as much because you don't have a full contrast range to help them stand out. But looking at the black screen, you can tell that they're actually brighter than what's on the black screen, but the black screen gives you a more wholesome sort of view of contrast, as long as you're getting a bright enough image on your brights and your colors. So they work in polar opposites. The black screen's going to have a black background by nature because it's black. So you're going to hold on to your contrast. The question is it bright enough to be an image that you would want to watch? And as long as it is, then that's a black screen doing what a black screen was designed and intended to do. One of the reasons I don't particularly appreciate Lambertians. Okay, so hopefully that helps you to understand. The better the design of the screen, which is why I'm really not crazy about Lambertian screens. And when I say Lambertian, let me, just say that's a word for a very dry matte screen. It takes a very dry matte screen generally, unless you're dealing with optical layers that some of your manufactured companies make. From a paint perspective, it's going to be a very dry matte screen that's going to give you that Lambertian kind of feel. In other words, it's going to diffuse all the light across the screen evenly. The reason I'm not a big fan of those is because they really don't hold up in light. If you think about it, the whole purpose for most people of moving to a black screen isn't just to get a black background. What you're hoping for is to have that nice deep black level. You want to watch it in the dark sometimes, but also whenever you turn on the lights, you want it to hold your imagery very well. And unfortunately, what happens on Lambertian black screens is that you'll hold your black level okay. It starts to tan out because it's trying to diffuse all that light that's hitting it from any direction. Doesn't matter whether it's front on or top, bottom, side to side. Whereas a specular good specular design is going to take care of that for you and allow you to continue to get a great image even in high amounts of ambient light. And on top of that, the specular is also going to give you just a beautiful front viewing that you're not going to get off the Lambertian. It's going to be a dim image by comparison. Okay, next up. So next question is a black screen best for outside? And this one I'm going to go with yes, and here's why. A good specular screen, now let's start with the Lambertian, once again, a matte kind of dry screen. If you go with a Lambertian, it's going to struggle in most amounts of light during the daytime. Okay, just is. And any screen is going to struggle in highlight. That's a given, okay? That's a known, guys. The sun puts out about 100,000 lumens. That is just a tremendous amount of lux. So it's going to take over. If you set it out in afternoon time, anything's going to struggle to present an image that's going to be anything that you would want to watch. But let's say that you've got an area like I've got a grill station that I'm going to be putting a screen in, as well as a recreational building that we're going to be putting a screen in. Now, it's an open format building. It's like a covered patio, so to speak. In a situation like that, you'll still have about 4,000 to 5,000 lux in high points of the day that would be hitting that screen, even though it's under cover. But a specular screen take care of that for you. If you've got the, right amount of lumens, generally anywhere between 3,000 to 4,000, in a long throw, or let's just say 3,000. Let's cap it at 3. Then you could actually pull your projector just a little closer, maybe get it somewhere in about the 8.5 to 9 foot range instead of 10.5 to 12. You could get a pretty nice image with a black specular screen. Lambertian screen's going to be crap. It just is, guys. It's going to be a crap image unless you've got extremely high lumens, probably anywhere between 8 to 10,000 lumens. So just you'll notice on these daylight demonstrations that are done out there, pretty much every case, guys, if you watch the video, within 20 to 25 minutes of the video starting in supposed daylight, it's dark. So within 20, 25 minutes. Now, I don't know about you guys. Here where we live, we call that dusk. Okay, so that's not daylight hours. That's dusk. The sun's already gone down below the horizon. And a lot of times you'll still have brightness in the sky, but there's only about 70 to 90 lux outside. So it's more of a deception than anything. I'm talking when you have true lux, somewhere in the upwards of 600 to 800, anywhere between there to say 2 to 4,000 lux that would be hitting the screen surface. Because of that, a gray screen or a white's not going to happen. But with a dark gray screen, it's going to wash it out, and it's really going to start to impact the background. So your screen's not really going to look black to you. It's not going to hold those black levels well. So in that case, yes, I believe that a black screen's better, but only if it's a specular screen. A Lambertian screen's going to struggle just as much as a gray screen would. Our last question is, do you think that a black screen is better than a gray screen? That's a tough one. I've thought about this question quite a few times, guys. Now, you'll notice I have a gray screen for my primary screen. That's because, quite frankly, I don't run this room with 200 to 400 lux in here all the time. Okay, I don't. Even whenever we have family gatherings, and we've had a number of family gatherings in this room where we have the TV going, and a lot of times, like for example, last Christmas we had the lights all on, and I still had some Christmas stuff playing in the background, and it did beautiful, right? But that's rare. And if I am doing that, I've got a setting on my projector for that environment. Okay, so I just kind of crank things up just a little bit because I don't like to crank it up too much. Too much contrast just annoys me. You get into clipping, which is another thing you don't hear a lot of people out there talking about in the paint mix community, but you'll notice a lot of times that when you're watching some of these video demonstrations, there's clipping going on everywhere. So I try to keep that dialed down, but in that environment, you just crank it up so that it looks appealing to everybody, but it's for short-lived durations, maybe a couple hours, something like that. But normally I would say a gray screen is going to give you a better balance or perceptible blacks, because when we watch the screen, the blacks look black. I don't need that OLED look to perceive that I'm seeing a black background. Neither do you. Now, if it's just something that you prefer to have a super deep black background, that's great. But if you don't have a specular screen, what that means is that's what you're going to get. Okay? You order fries, you get fries, right? They don't throw a hamburger in on top of it for fun. And it's the same thing here. If you're dealing with a Lambertian type screen, if it's not a specular screen, what's going to happen is you get the black background as long as you keep your ambient light environment low to moderate. But what you won't get are those high brights, whites, and colors. You just won't. They're going to be dim. You can see it in the examples that I'll show. So here's a direct example of some of the things that I want you to think about before, because our next, or at least the first demonstration we're going to have is going to be on a 100-inch screen. It's a fixed frame aluminum screen. It's going to be this little baby right here. This is a SIRIUS B. It's our darkest screen, so we're going to start with it. And what you're going to see is what it looks like in different light environments. Okay, you're going to see it in zero light, close to zero as I can get it. Low light, which is going to be just a couple of lamps. We'll do a couple of examples of moderate light, and then a couple examples of extreme light, so that you can see how it performs in each. Now, for me, I'm just going to tell you guys, I'll never run from light again. This product, this little black guy right here, is amazing. Now, my preference is SIRIUS A, just my personal preference between the two, just because I get a little better side angle, and I'm going to go through all that whenever we get into the presentation. You'll get specs and all of that. But this is what we're going to start with, and I'm just going to give you a taste of this screen compared to Lambertian screen, which we've created a Lambertian screen. I know I said I wouldn't, but I have. And whether or not we'll ever do anything with it or sell it, because my thought was that I'd sell it for maybe like $60 a quart, right? Just kind of keep the cost really low. And it's an easy roll, very easy roll, no lines, no nothing like that. None of our products leave roll marks. So, we'll just kind of start with that, but I'm going to leave you with this demonstration. All right, and here, what I'm going to show you is really related to the reimmersion of the Supreme 8. So I just want to show you guys, this is that foam panel that was bought from Hobby Lobby. It was selling for $8.99. I picked it up for, how Hobby Lobby always has 50% off some of their sections. So I got it for about $4.50. And I use these as just test panels. But you can see how the light, now this is moderate light, not high light. And you can see right here, right? See how it golds the overall image. You get that light, bright kind of flare. And what does that remind you of? You see, now granted, this is the new version of the Supreme 8. So I'm going to show you something here in just a second. where you can see an even direct correlation, because this is a black panel, not a gray panel. So I've moved the black panel over to the side. I'm now showing you, this is Sirius A, not Sirius B. And you can see there from the side, that right there is the match. But that's as bright as that panel is ever going to get, okay? And turn the lights up, and you can see just how well Sirius A holds up in light. And you can see you don't get that goldish overtone on the black background. But here in just a second, I'm going to add that right there, that little middle panel, that is the Supreme 8. Now, guys, I'd readjusted the lighting, so this is not in highlight. And you can see that's the best that Supreme 8 would ever look, was at its side angle. But I want you to look at this. You see, once again, how it's washing out the contrast in the back, because it is a Lambertian screen. Compare it to this, and you can see the same thing happening here. So this is just for those people who are on the fence as to whether or not that's what kind of screen it is. It's exactly what it is. Now I'm going to turn the light back up. And now you can take a look at just how well that holds up in a highlight environment versus the Sirius A, which is behind it. And you can see with the Sirius A, it is not washing out the black contrast background. Your black levels hold very, very well. And when you go to the side, once again, that's the best that Supreme 8 screen is really ever going to look. Now what I'm showing you now, I was trying to get in close so that I could show you the gritty surface on that screen. Now I'm going to attribute this to he's using a chalk-based paint and watering it down. And that's key, guys, because the watering it down isn't just a matter of going on the cheap. Really what it is that when you add enough water, you start to break down the binder and the paint. So like you can take a standard chalk paint, add a lot of water to it, you break down the binder, and it actually gets this ashy effect. It's really, really a dry screen. Look, you can see as I just take my fingernail and lightly go across it, it leaves these marks. Now, a lot of people don't mention this, but see, here's something to consider. At some point in time, you're going to need to clean that screen. When I tried to clean this panel, I lost a lot of the grit off the edges. So as I was wiping, it was kind of like wiping mortar. As I wiped it, some of the grit started coming off, and it would leave little flaky areas where it had removed the paint. I'm going to show you the Lambertian that I created. This is not the Sirius B, that's the Lambertian I created. And look how smooth, not a roll mark, nothing. None of our products are going to leave roll marks. But look at this. Now you imagine trying to clean that with with like a paper towel or something. You would have to use a soft cloth, very soft cloth, or probably a dust, some sort of little duster. And now what I'm showing you is in the light, and I'm turning to the window so you can see that the camera's autofocusing because that looked really bright there through that window. But you can see, even taken in the light, how well Sirius B holds up. That's a small panel, but a big image. Okay, I'm just using the panel to capture a small portion of a larger image. But you can see that it holds up fine in the light. And that right there, I was probably setting about 9.5 feet. I couldn't get back any further because of the table that was next to the back. But you can see it's crisp, it's bold. It's black, it's not washing out. I'm showing you now where the light's hitting the screen. You can also see it when I go to the side in a minute, just how much light is hitting that screen. You can see it on the table to the left of the screen there. If you look, you can see just how much light and how much light that screen's stopping from hitting the rest of the table. But this is truly an ALR screen. It works in the method of skipping the light off the surface through a variety of layers. But now I'm also going to be honest with you here. If you look, you can see a bit where the image is impacted. Okay, the screen not so much, but the image is, because like there, that should be a little bit bolder, but because there is so much light hitting that screen, it actually starts to wash out a little bit of the light. Okay, so the only drawback there is that you would need more lumens, you know, if you're going to hold up in higher amounts of light. That was about 600 lux on the screen right there. So it'll continue to do fine as far as presenting an image, and you can see how much light's actually hitting it from the side there. Now, apologies, I said I was going to leave you with that, but I forgot that there was one other thing I wanted to mention, and this is important to me, okay? So this isn't a question from anybody. These are actual questions that I'd received and just didn't get to, but I felt like from a black screen perspective, we needed to get those answered, especially this UST one. I think that one was critical because I haven't really mentioned that in our previous episodes. So I wanted to make sure that people knew kind of where that stood. But the last thing that I would say is, I hear out there, now you've heard me say that I don't necessarily agree with, you know, things that I hear on numerous other channels. And one of those is going to be this. So bottom line, in a black screen, you're either going to be one or two, A or B. You're going to be either more Lambertian style, not necessarily fully Lambertian. And I would say that that's even kind of where Bird is with the 12th. It's not fully Lambertian, because if you look at some of the imagery, what you'll notice is on the side angles, it'll be brighter on the closer side and darker as it goes across. Okay, a fully Lambertian screen won't do that, but it is more in the Lambertian family than it is in the specular family. Okay, but here's what I would say about that. One, it's difficult to make. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you, I haven't seen a painted black screen yet that's specular that's worth a crap. And the reason for that is because they're going to spot like a witch. Okay, you're going to have a lighthouse that's going to follow you whichever direction you go. But you hear these folks a lot of times speak about it as if it's a bad thing, saying, well, you're going to have, you know, your viewing angle on the sides are going to go dark. Okay, they go darker, granted. And it's according to the type of the screen. That's one of the reasons why I prefer Sirius A over Sirius B. But Sirius B is going to be the ultimate black watching experience, black screen experience. It's just going to be because it's super black. It's not even close to black, somewhat black. It's as black as this microphone, the microphone stand I'm using now. It is a black screen. But this is a common question that comes to me from friends and everybody else, is like, well, how often do you watch it from the side, truly from the side, not just a little off angle, but from the side anyway? Because when I look at this screen behind me, my big screen, it encapsulates the whole viewing area in this room. Now, I'm not saying people don't have a room where maybe it doesn't, but it does. So, you know, that's used as an argument many times. But as I stated in one of the earlier little video pieces, keep in mind, that's as good as that screen's ever going to get on a Lambertian. Okay, so what you see from the side is also what you're going to see from the front, and that's the best it's ever going to be. With a specular screen, I'm going to be watching from the front anyway. So that's the way your Screen Innovations, the most sought after black screen in the world, okay, is a specular screen that has narrow viewing angles, actually even narrower than our formulas. So it amazes me that people use that as an argument, because what it is they're just pissed off they can't design something that does the same thing without spotting. And that's really what it comes down to, guys. They just have not reached that level where they can develop a screen that won't spot like a Dickens whenever you hit it with, you know, projector light. So, you know, I just say, look, I'd rather have the full bore. I want the full brightness in the front. I don't care about the side so much because I'm not going to be watching from there. And if I am watching from there, it's probably because I'm leaving the room and just want to see something before I walk out. And yes, I can still see it from the side. It might not be as bright as it would be from the front, but yes, I can still see it from the side. So that argument just doesn't hold water to me at all. I've never understood that argument. And these are people that are generally showing you gray screens, lighter gray screens, medium gray screens, where, you can open up a couple of windows, way far away, or you can, open up, a couple of doors. I've seen back in the day, there were tons of ones where people would have a door open on the side. Like that's where your light's going to be coming from. I've got light pouring in this door over here, and it doesn't affect the screen whatsoever because light has to be enough light. Okay. When I open up all the windows in here, believe it or not, it only adds about 50 to 60 lux on that side of the room. That's it. It's not like it adds a ton more. What it does is it makes it look like these lights are less bright, when in fact they're extremely bright. Combined total in this room, 9,600 plus lumens. And I say plus because if I have the nano leafs on bright, I don't even know. I've never measured how much light they put into the room. Probably not much. But 9,600 lumens total with the lamps whenever we turn everything on bright in this room. None of those rooms that I've seen out there that have these little dome lights have that kind of light in the room. Just not. You can look at some of these and tell, even going back to the earlier images I showed of Bird's Lambertian screen, you can tell in that room there's not much light going on in there. But it doesn't take a lot to impact a Lambertian screen. So I'll leave you with that. You guys take care. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.